Welcome back, guys, to the Futbal Biz podcast. As always, I'm Graysen and he's Hunter Boyven. And, I always tend to say that we have a lot to talk about. Today, I really mean it because we have a lot to talk about. We have at least one headline in every major Big Five league, so stay tuned for that. And then also, there's been a few interesting stories developing in the world of Lionel Messi, so stay tuned for that as well. But jumping right into it, we're going to go to the Premier League, where I think the first big major talking point there is Manchester United. Now, obviously, I'm wearing my Manchester City jersey today to potentially maybe gloat in their faces, but they might bottle the Champions League. They've lost 3 games of their last 4, and they look miserably bad. I think it kind of says how important Lisandro Martinez is for them. But considering the fact that they lost to Aston Villa, they lost to Brighton, and then they lost to West Ham. Now, Villa and Brighton are one thing, but losing to West Ham, they've been very bad this season. They obviously had the McAllister penalty against Brighton, and then David De Gea made a horrific error against West Ham. Tell me your thoughts on that one.
Well, for one, this is kind of like the same as my thoughts on Lloris from Tottenham. I think it's time to move on from De Gea. He was old reliable at some point, obviously, in his career. He used to be consistently good, but he's been making too many mistakes recently. And it's not like it's something new. Like he has been kind of shit, for lack of a better term, as of recent times. Like you said, Villa and Brighton, they're pretty good teams for the most part right now. So that's kind of understandable. But I think you're right. United are the real bottlers on this one because I don't know, like they made some great signings, and they've had some great momentum. But I would say they're more. You'll disagree with this probably. I think they're more bottlers than Arsenal is because at the end of the day, Arsenal is going to get Champions League, which they haven't had in several years. So at the very least, they're going to get something out of it. United, it's not really guaranteed.
It's close in the bottler race. I would actually agree with you. I actually would say that United are bigger bottlers. They're winless in their last 4. Losing the title to Man City is no shame. There's no shame in that. Arsenal weren't expected to make the Champions League this year, and they're going to get second. Still a good season. Is it a trophyless season? Yeah, but it's not the worst that it could be. They're still going to get the Champions League. They're going to be back in a very prestigious competition where they can offer that to a big name player, which Arsenal has some great players, but they are missing that superstar. They could maybe attract him that way. United, on the other hand, if they lose out the Champions League to Liverpool, who, other than City, is their biggest rival, that's embarrassing. If all for Eric Ten Hag's quote unquote great season, great start, if all they have to show for that is the Carabao Cup, that's not a great season. They were favorites in the Europa League. They lost to Sevilla, who historically, yeah, they're great in the Europa League, but Sevilla's in the bottom half of the Liga. I they lost the FA Cup, and yeah, they will lose the FA Cup in my opinion. They haven't lost it yet, and they haven't even been in the Premier League race since November. So yeah, I don't think it's a good season for them.
No, I mean, like they've definitely had some great moments, and I do think that signings like Casemiro have been league-wide signings of the season. Um, and Rashford has obviously had a great season, but at the same time, um, you should have expected more. You had such a big lead over Liverpool, for example, who very well might be stealing it from them. I think Newcastle is going to be safe. Losing to Arsenal is it's not that like disappointing, and they're going to stay up, I think. But they've held on to the top 4 for the last several weeks at this point. So to lose it to a team who, for most of the season, has been sitting ninth, 10th place in Liverpool. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. There's 4 games left for United, 3 left for Liverpool. So if United does win their game in hand, they still have a 4-point advantage. But at this point, that's a big if. I'm going to take a look at United's schedule here. So United's next game is home at Wolves. They should win that. And then they go away to Bournemouth. Bournemouth have been better recently, but they should win that too. Then they're playing Chelsea at home. They will win that game. Chelsea are still terrible. I don't care that they won this past weekend. It's their first win in 6 games. That doesn't matter. And then they finish the season at home to Fulham. Those are all very winnable games if you're Manchester United. You have to take at least 3 of them. If you screw up against Chelsea or Fulham, that's one thing, but they should win all those games. All of those teams are in the bottom half except for Fulham. Fulham had a good convincing win today, so it's possible that they take one from United, at least a point or two. But it's if you're United, you got to figure out something, and I think the starting point for that is moving on from David De Gea.
Yeah, I feel like this is, again, like I said before, this is something that should have been done quite some time ago. I know he's been trustworthy in the past, but that is the past. Um, you shouldn't really hold on to someone for the sake of the fact that they've been a club legend, for however long. But yeah, I get it. He's been there for a long time, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, I mean, to start it out, I mean, the goalkeeping position has become very pass heavy as well, not just shot stopping. De Gea has never been great at that. He was never really asked to be good at it, but that's hindering his game. And then also the fact that he's not looked good at all. You have Dean Henderson, give him a shot. He's a good keeper. He was okay at Nottingham Forest before he got injured, and obviously he's not going to displace Keylor Navas. Keylor Navas is a World Cup player and one of the greatest players to ever come out of North America, if not arguably top 5. I would say he's top 5 players to ever come out of Central North America. And I mean, there's some greats in there, the likes of Hugo Sanchez, but Keylor Navas is arguably top 5 for me. He's won the Champions League multiple times. But yeah, I think Dean Henderson is the way to go, or go buy a keeper. I mean, the market's not that competitive right now. There's a lot of good ones out there. Donnarumma's on the fringes at PSG. They don't love him there. Or even somebody like a Robert Sanchez who displaced De Gea in Spain, in the Spain squad. And then he got displaced by a guy named Jason Steele. The only Jason Steele I knew of before him was the guy that made Charlie the Unicorn. That's the only Jason Steele that I was familiar with. And then they let this guy displace Sanchez. Sanchez is a quality keeper and could do a job for Man U. So I think De Gea's got to go, but we'll see what happens in the summer. I think they get rid of him, but we'll see.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I do. Keylor Navas is a good shout. I don't know the extent of his contract at Nottingham, but he deserves better. So maybe that's a shout, but literally just anyone else. It's time to move on. He's an outdated style of keeper. Um, yeah, like you said, it's evolved, and not just from passing, but also rushing out and playing a little bit more aggressive. He's used to what it used to be.
If speaking of Keylor Navas, I think United would take him over De Gea at this point. He's an option. He'll be an option too. He's on loan from PSG. Take one of the PSG keepers. I mean, if they want to keep Donnarumma, then let them keep him. But I mean, I would take a 36-year-old Keylor Navas over De Gea. But yeah, we'll see if the United sell him over the summer. But unlike United, Man City look fantastic. They won 2-1 over Leeds recently. Gundogan getting a good brace. Had a chance for a hat trick, which he unfortunately missed on the penalty. But overall, decent win. Allardyce seems to have solidified Leeds a little bit, but it wasn't enough. Good one again, 2 well-taken goals. And, before that, though, Erling Haaland did break the Premier League goals record, which is a very historic feat in his first season, too. I absolutely love this guy. I think most even people that don't support City, I think, love Erling Haaland. I mean, he's a joy to watch. He's one of those players that even rival fans can root for him. And, we talked about the Ballon d'Or last time. I'm not gonna really get into that right now, but Erling Haaland is just incredible, and the fact that he broke this record keeps City flying. I just think it bodes well for him.
Like you alluded to earlier, even when he was at Dortmund, I couldn't help but enjoy watching him. He's one of those players that, unless you're currently facing him in the match, you enjoy watching him. Um, I would love to see, like you said, a Ballon d'Or coming soon. If it's not this year, then it will come very soon. Even though I do think it probably will and should be this year. Um, yeah, debut season that also makes it even more prestigious. A record that hasn't been touched in 20 something, 18 years. I don't know the exact number, but it's
It's
been a
when
long
Shearer
time.
was in the league, so I forget. Early 2000s, I believe.
But regardless, it's been untouched. Um, so yeah, I don't see anything besides not winning any trophy, which they will win at least one. There's nothing really stopping them, and this is probably one of the best debut seasons that anyone has ever had anywhere in any capacity.
Absolutely. I mean, he's just an absolute machine. There's no other way to say it. The guy is unstoppable. So the fact that he's doing this in obviously a very good City team, he's got loads of talent around him, but still, I mean, City's had the likes of Aguero, they had the likes of Tevez, they had the likes of Sterling, guys that scored consistently 20 goals a season. None of them broke 35. Holland has come in and did that in his first season. He'll probably end up around the 40 mark, which in the Premier League, that's unheard of.
Mhm.
That says enough, and people will shout tap in merchant or he's got too much quality around. No, that doesn't matter. You know how difficult to score a tap in like it can be? I shanked one in my intramural game last week. I was 2 feet from the goal. Should have been a tap in. I missed. Obviously, I'm not a professional, but I still missed. Scoring tap ins is not as easy as people will say it is. And it's one that, yeah, I mean, whether or not it's that scissor kick he scored against Southampton or a poke in against, the likes of Nottingham Forest, it doesn't matter. 35 goals is 35 goals. It doesn't matter how you score them. It just matters that you score them. The fact that he's done this is incredible, and no one should try to take that away from him.
Well, I don't think many people who are taking it away from him really enjoy watching the game. I don't think you could see this and like not feel some type of joy, even if like you're a United Ultra or something like that. This is cool to see. Um, like it was cool when Salah did it in his own right a few seasons ago. I don't
Absolutely.
like Liverpool at all, but it was cool to see. Like I'm a Salah fan. I like him, and I'm just as much a Holland fan. I think this is really cool to see. So, yeah, probably maybe not 40, but pretty close to 40. Um, and I think this is going to be something that happens multiple seasons, and we're going to see this again in some fashion next year.
I think it's entirely possible he has 100 Prem goals within 3 seasons. I mean, it's it's just incredible what he's doing. He's not going to have De Bruyne forever, of course, but it doesn't matter. They'll find somebody to replace him. Um, it may take years, but they'll find somebody. Um, and yeah, it's really incredible. It's something that I absolutely love, and I do think that they have a great chance at winning the treble. And obviously, as a City fan, I hope they do.
So, what is next?
Ah, what is next? Liverpool against Tottenham is a very big match that happened uh, over the weekend. I gotta say, um, oh, this was last weekend, but Spurs did the most Spursy thing ever. They went down 3-0 within 20 minutes. Then they pulled a 2017. Liverpool then decided to pull a 2017 against Sevilla, giving up a 3-goal lead. And at that point, I was like, all right, Tottenham's got this. Then Lucas Moura decides to pass back to Diogo Jota, and then they lose. Is there anything more Tottenham than that? I don't think there is. They had it. They fought like hell to get back. And then, you know, Liverpool decided to, throw a wrench into Lloris's net and 4-3.
Yeah, this is something that I'll allude to. It's part of my idiot of the week segment. This is hilarious. I don't think anyone besides a Tottenham fan can't look at this and just cry laughing. You almost had it in the dying minutes. You almost completed a glorious comeback, and even a draw, like at this stage of the season, that would have been amazing. You could have taken that
Anfield
away
too.
from it. Could have taken that away from it and just be like, wow. And Richarlison scores the goal. Oh, it's so much better seeing him celebrate too, just to find out that a minute later, less than a minute later, he's not going to be feeling the same at all. It's so funny. I don't want to be a hater, but it's so funny.
It's hilarious, honestly. It really is. The fact that this was Richarlison's first Tottenham goal too. The fact it took him until late April to score it. May. I think it was May. It was late April or May to score this goal. His first of the year. 50 million that they paid for this guy. And he can't score until April. That's sad to begin with. But the fact that he, scores his first goal, throws his shirt off, which fair enough. You had a 3-goal comeback. Big moment, first goal. You're going to be hyped. But then to watch him do that, and then for the Liverpool to go down at the other end, Lucas Moura to pass to Jota, and then them scoring. Oh, I mean, I really do feel for Spurs fans, but that is hilarious. I can't not say it is.
But on top of that, even as funny as it is, I think the bigger takeaway is Liverpool. Um, they have had a horrible season as far as their standards go. Their season would be a great season for a mid-table team. But they have started. It's late. They have started a comeback though, and it's one that should be taken seriously, especially by teams like Man United. They should be watching out for that. Um, I most certainly counted them out of the top four a long time ago. So even if they don't and they end up in the Europa League, they came really close when they should not have. So I think it's really cool, good for them. As much as I don't really like watching them, it's something that should be commended.
Yeah, absolutely. They've had a very inconsistent season. They've dropped some games that they really shouldn't have. Van Dijk has looked awful. But doesn't really matter. In the end of the day, they could still get top four if United absolutely throw a wrench into their season and choke worse than Arsenal did when it came to the title. It's possible. It is possible, but we'll see. We will see. I really hope that United can't win, but that's that's one thing. Moving on to the Bundesliga, Dortmund. They tied Bochum. Bochum might get relegated. You're pushing for a title. You just scored 6 on Wolfsburg. You go for how do you go from drawing 1-1 to a really bad team to winning 6-0? Can somebody explain that to me? That just doesn't happen. you, you couldn't have taken one of that 6 and stuck it behind Bochum to win 2-1? You just cost yourself the title because you couldn't beat Bochum. It's one thing if it's like RB Leipzig or Bayern Munich or Mönchengladbach, who they still have to play, by the way. You couldn't beat Bochum. How?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same way to say how they didn't beat Chelsea. Like Chelsea have been at their worst,
Chelsea's
and
better than Bochum.
no, they absolutely are. And Chelsea's having their worst season, and Dortmund's having one of their best seasons. And in the momentum that they had at that point, they had still been unbeaten in the calendar year, and then they just completely bottle that. But then they go on to win other games. They've done this several times this season, where they have won games 5-0, whatever the case may be, and then the next game they just shit. They shit themselves. I have no idea how it happens because they're such a scary team when they're like really, into it. But this has happened to Bayern several times this season as well. They'll draw or lose to teams that are really bad. And honestly, that thought is scaring me right now because Bayern plays Schalke in a few days, who are not good. And historically, Bayern slapped them around every time. But I just have this really strange, scary feeling that they're gonna have a masterclass. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to that game, to be honest. I think they're gonna have an easier time against Leipzig than they are against Schalke, to be honest.
I mean, to be fair to Schalke's credit, they do have a little bit of momentum right now, but it's 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 Bochum. I don't know how Dortmund didn't beat them. But yeah, I mean, I hope that you're right. I hope that Schalke does have a masterclass because if they, if nobody against Bayern does, Bayern's gonna win the league again. Like
Yes.
it's you know why Serie A is more entertaining than the Bundesliga right now? Because they've had four winners in the last 4 years.
They're more entertaining than almost any league right now, I'd say.
They
Just
are. They
that
absolutely
alone.
are. And even as a Manchester City fan, when Leicester won the league, I was
That
thrilled.
was cool. Yeah.
When Liverpool won the league, obviously it's a rival of ours, but they deserved it. They deserved to win a league. The only team that if they beat City out that I'd be very annoyed with would be United. But they're not winning a league anytime soon. They stink.
I will
But but
say though,
but Dortmund, I don't know.
if Dortmund does bottle it, this is Dortmund's fault and no one else's. This is really Dortmund's to lose.
Well, no shit, they couldn't beat Bochum.
Like, no, they've had their like you have all this momentum, and unfortunately, like they obviously lost to Bayern a month ago now, but then they ended up still taking the lead of points a few games later when Bayern bottled their own games. But now the lead goes back to Bayern, and it's only by one. This is something that Dortmund could have easily protected. The lead they could have protected.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really have much else to say about that. I think I've gotten my point across. Terzic, you got to win out, man. And that's for you, Tuchel. Please lose the game,
Yeah, enough of that.
preferably, preferably to Schalke. But yeah, moving on to Serie A. So the big headline here is obviously that Napoli have won their first title in 33 years. Super happy for those guys. Osimhen scores a penalty against Fiorentina to send it to Naples or Napoli if you're Italian. Um, great season for them. No real words can describe how their fans are feeling. Those guys are absolutely losing their minds right now. And yeah, I think it's a fantastic season for Napoli. And despite the fact that they did horrible in the Champions League against Milan, Napoli deserved the win Serie A this year, and I am very happy for them. Maradona's legacy is finally carried out. They're finally seeing another title, and yeah, not really much else to say there.
Second, of course, congrats to Napoli. I think they're the first of the top five to actually officially clinch right now at this point.
Yes, they are.
But regardless of that and how amazing that is in its own right, I am a little bit more interested in the top four race at this point because you knew Napoli was going to win it weeks ago. It was just a matter of when. But the top four, even the top seven, is really, really interesting right now. It's all within 6 points from seven to, or sorry, 8 points from 7 to 2. And Juventus is back in second place, actually, which is I mean, listen, despite all the drama and all the propagating that has happened this season, losing 15 points, gaining 15 points, they have not stopped trying. So even in the Europa League, so them, special shout out to Roma, especially for their spot in the Europa League right now. I think Serie A is, like you said earlier, they are the most entertaining right now, and there's so much to look forward to.
Absolutely, and they're becoming a very competitive league. Now, obviously, Napoli ran away with the league this year, but again, it's their first one in 33 years, so that kind of says something. But yeah, Juventus have kept trying. You know, maybe they knew that there's a chance that they get their points back, so I mean that's great. Inter have won four straight. That's great. Milan are undefeated in five. And then on the other hand, Lazio have lost three of their last five, and they're currently in third. So we'll see. Roma are winless in four. So it's just it's crazy to see all these different types of streaks happening right now in Serie A, and we'll see a win who does make top four. I personally hope for my friends in Italy, a couple of them who do follow us. They're Atalanta fans, so I want them. I do want Atalanta to make it through, but we'll see if they do. I don't know if they will because they're looking on the outs right now. They did just lose to Juventus, so there is that. And on the other hand, Inter beat Roma with Lukaku scoring, and then Milan won 2-0 as well. And they're looking in on Inter for fifth place. Obviously, those two. If you couldn't add any more drama to the Milan derby in the Champions League, of course, they're also competing for that fourth spot right now. So that's insane. I mean, these two are just good. They've been at it all year, and it's great to see as a fan, especially as a neutral. You know, when it comes to Serie A, I mean, if I had to preference one, it would be Atalanta, but overall, I'd consider myself pretty neutral when it comes to Serie A. So the fact that the Milan derby is kind of gaining its traction again is fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot to fight for, and I'll keep saying it because it's still true. This, even beyond the league, these teams have been the most interesting. There's a storyline everywhere they go. A Milan derby in the semifinals, and then you could potentially have an Italian final in the Europa League. It doesn't really stop, and I'm just gonna say for the last thing that I'm really excited to see where everything ends up.
As am I. I mean, we'll look forward. I mean, there's four games left for basically every team there, so there's a lot to play for, and I absolutely think that Serie A is making a fantastic comeback. Hopefully, they can stay out of controversy. I'm looking at you, Juventus. Hopefully, they can continue to stay out of controversy because that really did plague them back in the mid 2000s. So I'm really hoping that they're able to stage this comeback and once again attract some of the best players in the world. But yeah, that will do it for Serie A. We're going to move on to France now, and I think we'll spend some time with this headline: Lionel Messi, arguably greatest player of all time, just got suspended 2 weeks for going to Saudi Arabia. Now, why would he go to Saudi Arabia? Well, there's a team there that's offered him $400 million. Could that be it? No, at this point it's just speculation, but it's possible he met with some people there. Maybe he just wanted a vacation there. He said himself that he was confused about the he thought that he had gotten approval, but he in turn didn't. So then PSG suspended him 2 weeks. I I've had trouble grasping that one. Not the suspension, but just why he would go to Saudi Arabia. Again, I would say if I was to assume it would be because there's a team there, but again, that's just speculation. So I'm currently unsure.
I would have to. I'm going to take Messi's side on this one because if we're being honest, he is one of the most unproblematic players in the world. Like, there's no drama really surrounding him. He doesn't do anything wrong, like outright. He's not outspoken on social media. He doesn't have any problems around him. And of course, like he's posted about it. His family was with them, all the kids. Even if it was um, a professional based vacation going to meet with some people, he still brought his family. I think it was very family oriented as well. Um, I don't. I think the suspension is a little bit much, especially for how long it is, and especially for the fact that they have not won the title yet. I don't think he did this with any malicious intent. I don't think he's doing this to spite them. Um, it's just it's a little bit silly. I don't think they suspended anyone ever. Definitely not in any recent times for any behaviors, despite how Neymar is always out and about doing things. Mbappe has been outspoken several times. I think this is kind of unfair, and I think it seems selfish. I don't know.
I'm kind of with you there. I do think that PSG have kind of fumbled the bag with this one. I mean, if I was PSG, I would try to do everything to keep Messi. Instead, you've just set him off. You've annoyed him. They're not going to want to. He's not going to want to play for you. Like he already doesn't want to play for you. Ideally, if they could afford him, he would go back to Barcelona, but they can't afford him because they have no money, especially not $400 million worth. I think Messi will. I think this is kind of the final straw for them. Now, reportedly, he is back in training, but that again, as you said, Messi's not really a troublemaker or somebody who doesn't try to cause any controversy. He never has. So I do think that Messi genuinely made a mistake and uh, just they realized what happened after going. Um, but it's the type of thing where he is partially at fault, but at the same time, I think PSG was a bit harsh. And if I was them, again, they fumbled the bag on this one. Messi's probably not staying there. I would say I don't think he's going back to Barcelona as much as their fanboys want him to go back there. You know, this quote unquote match made in heaven. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening. Your club is in financial jeopardy. You can't sign them. You already got to sell a bunch of players to cope with your season. Like, you guys had registration issues last year. You can't sign Messi. Get it out of your system. You can't sign him. But I think he either goes to Saudi Arabia to play against Ronaldo or goes to the MLS with Inter Miami. Those feel to me like his two options. Now, could he play elsewhere? Yeah, but he's not going. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to play in the Premier League. City tried to sign him several times, and that was with Pep Guardiola. I don't think he's going there. I don't see it. So that's just my 2 cents.
No, he deserves better, and I think he knows that. As I don't think he's a conceited type of person, but I think even he has to realize that at this stage of his career, he can kind of dictate where he goes and how he should be treated. A few months ago, this is a different leagues, different story, but Serge Gnabry got suspended for one game because he went to Paris for a fashion show without saying anything.
I
And
remember that.
I think it was he actually still played. He just couldn't start, and that was it. So if Messi's taking like a 5 day vacation, I think you can deal with it, and I think he'll be okay to return and be completely fit, considering he's one of the most consistent of all time. I think this is PSG just trying to flex their power in a position that they don't need to. So it's so random.
PSG's absolutely flexing their power here. There's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. And again, I think they just set him off. I don't think he's gonna want to play for them anymore. It's Mbappe's club anyway, but I mean, yeah, it's a situation where I think Messi will come out the winner regardless, and you you just irked your best player, other than maybe Mbappe. I don't know why you'd want to do that. I really don't understand why this headline was a thing, but it was, to, to say the least. But other than that whole fiasco, the other big headline in France. So there was a crazy game that happened in France this last weekend, and that was Lyon against Montpellier. So this game, Montpellier was up 4-1 with one player named Elie Wahi. I had never heard of him before, but he scored 4 goals in the game, so he can't be that bad. And then former Arsenal player Alexandre Lacazette scores 4 of Lyon's 5 to win 5-4, including a 90 plus 10 penalty. I wish I watched this game. I really do, because that is insane. The fact that you're 4-1 up and then you lose. One of your guys scores 4, and then the other team's guy scores 4. I can't say I've ever seen that. For two guys on separate teams scoring 4 in the same game. As long as I've been following football, I've not seen that. So that's just, I mean, that's just crazy to me.
In the same context, something that we have seen a lot lately is 90 plus 7 and up penalty goals, especially in the Prem recently too. I don't know why this keeps happening. It's kind of weird. But there's been so many reviews and callbacks, and then I know this happened to United the other day against Brighton, and you have all these United ultras complaining that it shouldn't have happened, even though several seasons ago, same thing happened in Bruno's favor when the whistle was blown, but then they gave him a penalty afterwards. So it's a weird little factoid, but back onto the game at hand. It's cool to see Lacazette kind of back in a little bit of form. I think he's one of the top scorers in the league right now. Um, but like he had a great career, and then he kind of fell off a little bit at Arsenal and didn't really hear much from him. And now he's doing big things again, which is cool to see.
Lacazette is the top scorer of Ligue 1. He's tied with Mbappe. So really, I mean, I haven't really heard his name at all this year. And by the sounds of it, I probably should have. Because 24 goals is not a small number. And of course, in third place behind both of those guys is Jonathan David. But yeah, he's one that absolutely is in the mark there. It looks like Hunter's Wi-Fi is temporarily delayed. Oh, he is back. Okay. But yeah, of course, Jonathan David's behind those guys, and that makes me happy as a Canada fan. But um, and actually, just that as a side note, Alfonso Davies did win Canada Player of the Year. I'm sure you saw that as well. I did forget to talk about that in the Bundesliga segment, but he did win. I actually probably would have given it to Jonathan David. I actually think he's had a better season, all things considered. 21 goals for a team that is currently fighting for the Champions League. It's kind of big. They're currently in 5th, so just outside looking inwards. But overall, Lacazette's having a great year by all accounts. The only problem is despite this great win, Lyon is still in 7th.
This Ligue 1 has been kind of weird. I mean, you would expect PSG to win, like they should, even though for some reason they aren't guaranteed to do that every year. Um, it's actually been a little bit interesting to watch because I've had a strange feeling that PSG would not win, whether it was Monaco or Marseille, Marseille's been in great form, so it would have been cool to see them win. I think it's kind of getting down to the wire. It might just go to PSG, but it has been one of the more interesting ones as far as top three goes, just because of that.
Yeah, to put it into perspective, I'm looking at PSG versus Lens right now. Lens are currently in 2nd. Lens have conceded 9 goals less than PSG and also lost 2 times fewer. The only problem with Lens is that they have 9 draws compared to PSG's 3. PSG scored 22 more goals than them. But I mean, dear God, this PSG team should be scoring 100 goals a season. Like, that's crazy if they don't. They're at 79 right now. I don't think they're going to hit that tally. It's just kind of says to me that PSG is poorly coached, and Galtier is definitely not lasting at the end of the season. There's no way with the controversy surrounding him, but also just the fact that he's been terrible for PSG standards. They should be winning this league by 20 points. The most right now, like they only have a 6-point lead. If they fumble the bag and Lens are able to, creep up on them, they could still lose. I don't see it happening. But again, more shocking things have happened. So the fact that Ligue 1 is still not decided is insane.
Should have been decided a long time ago with the caliber of that team. But honestly, every league this year has had its own top four, top two battles. So I think as far as that goes, for every league, this has been one of the best years to be neutral or just to like the sport at all. You got the Bundesliga, which is still going down to the wire. The only one that really was decided early, and it was many weeks ago, I'd say, was Serie A, even though that is still from 7-2, one of the most interesting leagues too. Maybe Spain has been decided kinda. Um,
Mostly.
and yeah, so it's been cool to watch it as a neutral. So
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Speaking of decided things in Spain, the Copa España has been decided, and Real Madrid did beat Osasuna in the final 2-1, both goals coming from Rodrigo, who unfortunately I did find out this morning that his house was actually being robbed while he was playing that match. So um, my thoughts go out to him and his family. I hope he's okay. Um, I know he is because he was at the game, but hopefully everything that he lost has been found, and those people get arrested. I feel like that happens way too often in Spain, where these guys get their houses robbed way too much. Um, I know it's happened to some of the biggest names out there, but at the same time, just pay for some security, guys. It won't hurt you. It'll hurt those that try to rob your house. Um, but other than that, that story aside, Madrid absolutely deserves to win this. It was their first title since 2014. So 9 years, really. I mean, that's crazy to think about that they haven't won it since then. But yeah, overall, great match. Rodrigo is a big game player.
did want to add the factoid that this is the second time that both Alba and Cruz have completed club football. They both did so at Bayern, so very cool to see some legends there. But they did it again at Madrid, which I think they are the only two players to do it for two clubs. So that's just really cool. Good for them. Yeah, especially Alba because yeah, he was at Bayern for so long. Cruz was at Bayern
Yeah.
for but yeah, that's very cool to see.
Absolutely, and not to mention too the fact that Eduardo Camavinga did it at 20 years old,
Yeah,
which
just saw
is
that.
insane. The fact that he's done it so young, and somebody who could potentially do that in the future is Alfonso Davies. The fact that he's almost done, if he hasn't, he's almost done it at Bayern.
I think it could have because they won the sextuple in 2020 that season.
2020.
So
Yeah.
I would assume that's
So yeah,
yeah.
Alfonso
So
Davies could be the next one if he goes to Madrid, which
of
which by the sounds of it is possible, but we'll see. I would love it if he did that. I'd be thrilled,
course you
but
would, wouldn't you?
a
Get out of
Canadian
here.
on Real Madrid.
Huh.
When's the last time that happened? Oh yeah, it never has. Um, the fact he's on Bayern alone is enough to make me happy. But you could be replacing one Canadian with another, since Jonathan David could also be going to Bayern. So we'll see. Um, he has been linked there, so
Need a striker.
the transfer window is going to be something. But
Gonna be good to watch it.
yeah, that aside, the fact that Kamavinga's done it at 20, and then yeah, those two guys have done it twice. That's just insane. Um, but I'm super happy for them. And it's possible that in the future, Erling Haaland could do it for Man City if they win the Champions League. But overall, I'm very happy with that game. And Hala Madrid.
Yeah, it's good for them. I feel like it's not something that should be totally shocking, even though for some reason they haven't won it in almost 10 years. It's something that they do. They're serial winners. But yeah, after 9 years, it's good. And shout out to Vinny too, because that first assist was very nice.
That assist was mouth-watering. Vinny is such a good player and deserves everything, all of the praise that he gets. Some people think he's overrated. I'm like, if you think Vinicius Jr. is overrated, you need to get yourself checked because he's far from it. But yeah, moving on to one game in the MLS, I'd like to talk about. The New England Revolution did win on Saturday over Toronto in Toronto. Bernadeschi, Insigne, no problem. We can shut him down with Brandon By and DeJuan Jones, who, if you don't follow MLS, you're going to be like, who are these guys? But that's our right and left back. Both of them are insanely quick. DeJuan Jones also bagged a goal. So that was huge. And yeah, the Revs are tied at the top of MLS with FC Cincinnati, who I did go to see that game against Cincinnati, which they did tie 1-1. But the Revs are back. The Revs are looking great. The only problem is one of their best players, Dylan Barrero, did tear his ACL. So that's rough. But other than that, the Revs are back.
Well, hopefully that stays the case. I'm not. I don't pay that much attention to it. But hopefully that injury is not something that kind of screws them over. But
It won't help, but they do have some depth, thankfully. So hopefully it's not the end of the world there. But yeah, my cat is being a nuisance per usual. But yeah, moving on to our final segment of the week. But just before we do that, there are some big games this week. Keep your eyes peeled on the UCL. Madrid for play City tomorrow, and then on Wednesday we got the Milan Derby. So big implications happening this week. We'll see what happens in those games. Really hoping City are able to make the final, but we shall see if they finally put themselves in another prime position to win, and then they choke. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't want that to happen at all. You know, like come on, guys. I know you can do it. You have Pep Guardiola, you got Erling Haaland, you got Kevin De Bruyne, you got a great defense. Just win the damn trophy.
yeah, I think at this point there's no excuse now. You have a proper striker. You figured out your defense in a way that people would have doubted. I think that the tactical changes that have been made have been really bizarre. However, they have worked. So I'm hoping for your sake that Pep sees that and he doesn't try to do any fancy schmancy stuff randomly for no reason when he's already figured out the winning formula.
If he
So
does,
I
I
guess
swear
we'll
to
see. We'll see tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever it is.
if he does that, I swear to God. If he does it again, like, come on, man. You know what works. Just play simple. Play your style. Don't use just three central midfielders. Use Rodri. Rodri is one of
Yeah,
your most important players. Don't bench him again.
I
Oh,
think it just comes to don't overthink it. You like you said, you have the winning formula.
if he does, I don't get it. Like, he's such a good coach. Like, come on, man. Don't bottle this again, please. Please.
I think if they get past Madrid, there should be no
Oh my
problem.
God, they should. No offense to either Milan team, but they're fourth and fifth in Serie A respectively, and frankly, City should blow either of them out of the water. If
Got
they
to
get
worry
past
about
Madrid,
this week first.
they got to get past Madrid first. Of course, that's the tougher fixture. If you
Yeah.
can get by them, you should be able to get by Milan. Oh well. But anyways, moving on to our final segment of the week, idiot, goal, and hero. I will start us off with idiot of the week, and I'm going to give it to Manchester United, but in particular, Luke Shaw and David De Gea. Shaw for having one of the clumsiest handballs I've ever seen. Ball goes over the top. All he has to do is clear it. Instead, he sticks his arm up and it hits him. Man U lose the match. Syed Ben Rama takes a slow rolling shot. I probably could have saved it. It goes by De Gea. West Ham win the game 1-0. Now that's not to say that Man U's offense is off the hook here, because they're not. Frankly, they were also dreadful. But the fact that they couldn't score against Brighton, you couldn't score against Brighton. They just conceded 4 to Everton. Everton's coached by Sean Dyche. A Sean Dyche team can score 4 on Brighton, and you can't score 1. That's sad. West Ham are in 15th. You can't beat them. That's sad. That's super sad. Man U are a sad club right now. And I don't care if their fans try to tell me otherwise. They are. They might lose top 4. They might lose to Chelsea.
Let's not get too crazy there. I don't know.
I'm not getting too crazy. They're terrible right now. So is Chelsea, but Chelsea's been terrible all season.
Yeah.
But the fact is yeah, the Man U absolutely deserve a shout for this. And then I'm also going to allude back to the fact that those guys that burgled Rodrigo's house, I hope you get arrested and serve life in prison. Those are my shout-outs for this segment.
I don't think it's a life-worthy sentence, but they definitely should be going to jail for that. Mine, I glazed over earlier. Just Spurs being Spurs. Like we said earlier, you got complete, almost glorious comeback when you really shouldn't have, and you were that close. You were that close, and you bottle it again, and only a way that the Spurs know how. So most certainly, my idiot of the week.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I can't knock that. I would, in yours, give a shout out to Lucas Moura for having one of the worst passes I've ever seen to Diogo Jota. That was terrible. So fair shout. But going to goal of the week, I know you don't really follow the MLS, but Christian Benteke had an absolute banger of a bicycle kick. He scored against our Evan Maguire's Charlotte FC. Charlotte FC have not had a good year so far, but Benteke scored an absolute wonder of a bicycle kick against them, and I, by default, really have to give it to that.
Mine would be Pascal Gross from Brighton. I think it was a 6-1 victory or a 6-0 victory a few days
6-0.
ago. 6-0, yeah. So it was their third goal. They were already moving like crazy. He just gets a nice little pass and shoots it from outside the box. It was only one of his many goals that game. He had a great game. But it was a beautiful goal. It was nicely taken and just floated past the keeper, who unfortunately had a very bad day at the office.
Yeah, I got to feel for Jose Sa in that one. Yeah, that game was insane. I did watch that one, Brighton against Wolves. Wolves did not look alive at all in that game, but they did rebound. So credit to Julian Lopetegui on that front. But yeah, not a good day if you're a Wolves fan watching Pascal Gross score a couple bangers against you. And yeah, moving on to that, our final segment, Hero of the Week. I have 2 guys that really come to mind for mine. The first is Alexander Lacazette. 4 goals, won the game. Pretty straightforward that. Same with Rodrigo. Rodrigo scored twice in the final. He's proving to be a very big game player for Madrid. And yeah, he's scored twice to win them the Copa de España. So, the Copa del Rey, my apologies. The Copa del Rey, the Copa de España is a completely different tournament. I get the 2 mixed up. It's like the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. So, but they won the Copa del Rey. I think I said Copa de España earlier too, but Rodrigo sent them to that trophy.
And mine, pretty simple, basic stuff that we can expect now. It's been in the making, the whole season. Erling Haaland, he broke a record that's been untouched for so long. There's nothing really to say about this that we haven't said already. He's a monster. He's going to keep doing this. He's going to win a Ballon d'Or or several in his career. This is one of those seasons that if you could put it on a wall, you would hang this season on a wall. This is just an unreal season. So yeah, that's without a doubt hero of the week for me.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. I can't dispute that at all, and I probably never will dispute that one because I love Haaland. Haaland is awesome, and I absolutely love watching him just play. I mean, he's been an absolute menace on the field, and frankly, a guy that deserves all the credit in the world for how hard he works and for how much he does for poor Man City. But that will wrap it up for us this week. We did cover a lot of material in this episode. We started with the fact that Man U might as well just go down to the beer and buy a bottle because they're bottling it. So there's that. We started with that. City once again were convincing. They look like a surefire bet to win the league at this point. Liverpool won a crazy game over Tottenham, with Tottenham fighting but then losing at the same time. Dortmund couldn't beat Bochum. Bayern Munich have a 1 point lead at the top. In Serie A, Napoli officially clinched the title, but also top four is really shaping up in Serie A with the likes of Juventus, Inter, Lazio, Milan, all having crazy weeks. We then moved to France, where Messi got suspended by PSG for 2 weeks, which both of us were scratching our heads at for taking a trip to Saudi Arabia. And then also the fact that Lyon won a crazy match over Montpellier, which was 4-1 and ended 5-4, with Alexandre Lacazette scoring the winning penalty as well as 4 goals. In Spain, we talked about Madrid winning the Copa de España, their first win in 9 years, with Rodrigo scoring a brace. In the MLS, we talked about local boys New England Revolution beating Toronto FC 2-0 with Bobby Wood and DeJuan Jones getting the goals. And then we finally wrapped it up with the UCL coming up this week, as well as our idiot goal and hero of the week. As always, I am Grayson Mortimer.
I'm Hunter Boyven.
Please subscribe if you haven't already, and we hope to see you next time.